A happy new year to everyone. Well, we have a new president, John Dramani Mahama. He's been very busy. I I have wished him well in his endeavor. We want to see that he keeps his promises that he has made to the Ghanaian people. He's clearly letting us know that political campaigning is very different from when you take the oath. And so, in recent times, when he met with the religious bodies, he was quick to say that the proper human right bill expired with Parliament, which is right, and quick to say that it will be good for the Christians to preach the word of God well, so that there will be no need to pass the bill. But it clearly vindicates President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, who, in his own wisdom, knew that the God that he serves will vindicate him by some of the actions of President John Dramani Mahama. The Minister for Finance designate was vetted yesterday. We've seen some inconsistencies in their own promises that they made. The Ghanaian people voted. It's not what we expected as a new patriotic party. Our National General Secretary has led very strongly to apologize to the Ghanaian people, especially those that invested in us in the 2016 election and the 2020 election. And for those that might have felt that we didn't live up to expectation, we are back now to rebuild our party and to make it a lot more stronger and better. I'm happy to see that there's still vibrancy within the rank and file of the young people who still believe in the tradition of the new patriotic party. And I'm very clear in my mind that if we're able to organize ourselves very well, immediately after the committee brings out its finding and we decide what the right steps are for us to take as a political party, we should in a very short time regain the confidence of the Ghanaian people, regain their trust, and be able to defend the legacy of the new patriotic party, which at the time had its presidency, President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. For the NDC, it appears that the center cannot hold. You've seen a lot of violence that has been going on, which continually poses a threat to national security, a threat to the democracy that we are enduring and having. But I've been particularly concerned, especially as a young person and also for many young people who have either had to stay home during the tenure of an MPP government, and then the NDC people who had to immediately come and go to the civil servant's office and say that when NPP was in power, they had to stay home. I think that we need to consciously have a national dialogue that gives opportunity to young people to be employed, regardless of your political orientation and affiliation. I'll tell you something. When we lost the election, I had conversations with my uncle, the president, and then he said, many of you young people are going to be home. Very brilliant, very intelligent, very talented. You're going to be home. But we cannot build our country like that. I've seen that my very good friend at MIIF has had his appointment revoked. I know that the Supreme Court passed a ruling on the fact that if CEOs are appointed in a government and they go through the Public Service Commission and they pass through that, they become civil servants. And so, as much as possible, you either maintain them, you give them their rank, or you pay them their services off. But I think that we should have a big conversation around that. Yes, there's a Supreme Court ruling. So we need to have a broader conversation around that. Do we think this is the right thing to do for the country? Do we have to immediately politicize every young person? Because people have choices and people must have choices. But our choices must not deny us the opportunity to contribute to Ghana. The president, Nana Danko Akufo-Addo, called Ghanaians to be citizens and not spectators. The president, John Dramani Mahama, has called Ghanaians to be Ghanaians as much as he's a Ghanaian. Is Are some of his acts that he's putting together a clear indication that he's going to abide by his Ghanaianness, or they are just mere words that he used on the day that he was being sworn in? So it's early days. We are observing. We have seen that there is a list of regional ministers that he has. There are about six major regions that are out. First from Central, the question where it's in having and at these were the things that we saw the vice president. So there are good questions that we must ask. I did ask a question about a full accountability of the swearing in. I mean, I can understand and appreciate that there was a transitional team. I can understand and appreciate that that transitional team left some monies for the incoming government. However, that transitional team of President Nana Danko Akufo-Addo was not a spending officer. And so it would be good for us to know how much was really spent on the inauguration. And we're going to keep him accountable from day one. Now, I'm glad that the Minister for Energy designate yesterday clarified his 5 hours of fuel that was left and pushed the blame to the media. Yeah. But it was very clear that he goofed from the very beginning. But I mean, be it as it may, clarity has come. It will be good for us to know how much money is being spent on the emergency fuel that is being procured from Nigeria. We want to keep him accountable from day one to the end. The regions that have not been mentioned yet, what is the plan? And I'm glad. I mean, our minority leader has been very firm and very strong. He said that these appointments that are coming in, tot to tot, sope sope, is not something that is helpful. I mean, we were told that you wanted a honeymoon. I mean, of a truth, but I mean, you cannot be requesting for a honeymoon after having such an overwhelming support from the Ghanaian people. And I can see the pressure that they're under. So I didn't see Upper West region. I didn't see Western North. I didn't see Western region. I didn't see Central region. I didn't see Bono region. I didn't see Bono East. So these six regions obviously must have leaders, and it will be good for us to see what his plan is for these leaders. My second, okay, I'll finish and come. My second thoughts are on the oral committee that was set up before the swearing in. Now, it's important that the President John Dramani Mahama abides by the constitutional frameworks that exist. Some things can be pardoned when you have not been sworn in because you're in transition and you are wanting to prepare your team. Now you have been sworn in and you're the President of the Republic of Ghana. You set up an oral team when you were in transition. What mandate do they have? Because now you are president of Ghana, you sworn an oath, you are abiding by the constitution, you work with state institutions. Are you wanting to ask the oral team to stop their work and hand over whatever they have begun to the Office of Special Prosecutor or Yoko or Shraj? There are constitutionally mandated bodies that, as president, you would want to work with. Are you giving mandate to an unconstitutional body to do things that it's not mandated by the constitution? We must ask that question because the oral team have no mandate now. Now that you're president, they have no mandate. Who is asking them to do what they are doing? If you're in transition, yes, we can appreciate that you wanted them to work within a transitional period. But now you're in office. What mandate has the oral team got? What constitutional mandates do they have? What legislative powers do they have? What prosecutorial powers do they have? There's nothing. So we can clearly say that what they are doing is not in accordance to any laws. It's not in accordance to any 1992 constitution. It's not in accordance to anything. So we must ask the question. In transition, we can accept that you're in transitioning, you're wanting to prepare yourself, but now you're president. Are you disregarding the role that Office of the Special Prosecutor can play? Are you disregarding the role that Yoko can play? Are you disregarding the role that Shraj can play? Are you making them second class state institutions and elevating the oral team above that? We need to ask those questions, and those are key indicators for me. Clearly, he should be preparing to complete his 120 days. Before that, he will come to Parliament to give us a State of the Nation address, which would be a comparison of the last State of the Nation address of President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo vis-a-vis his. And it's important that we prepare ourselves very well to match it boot for boot. Because if you recall the vetting of the Minister for Finance designate, he said that per his briefing, the records that he received from the ministry has figures ABC, which is why the Minister for State under the Yeswa Akufo-Addo Bawumia government, the Honorable Abner, mentioned that you cannot state that the figures that we presented in Parliament were false when you are standing on that same institution to present your figures. And so those are questions that we must be asking. But as much as we look at keeping the government accountable, yes, you will fear some kakra we are wanting to deal with. So I'm sure that you can ask your question from that place. Okay, so let me begin with the last one, which is the committee that has been set up. You are aware that as a new patriotic party, we are a party of tradition. Any party of tradition builds its tradition with history, and with history would be with people that have had many years of experiences. To be able to identify a problem, you must be in the problem to be able to know what the problem is. And so for you as a constituency communications officer, if we want to be able to understand what happened in Ho or understand what happened in Hohoi, you must have been involved in the problem to be able to tell us what the problem was and then for us to be able to find um, possible solutions. For me, the committee that has been set up, chaired by Professor Michael Kwe, the leadership of the committee is an excellent decision by the National Executive Council. And I think that as a rank and file of young people desiring to prepare to take over leadership from our senior people, we must appreciate their wisdom and appreciate their hard work. There's no way a young person can be on that committee to chair the committee, because that young person is limited by age and by experience and by foresight and all of that. And so the committee is right. They have the right people on the committee, the right experiences. They have seen various periods: 92, 96, 2000, 2004, 2008, 2012. They've seen various periods. And so they can be able to compare and be able to bring best practices that would help us rebuild the party stronger. There's an email that has been set up by the headquarters for people to send emails and send their grievances. I've seen people that have started sending emails, and I think that those are good. On some platforms, I've seen that people are also sharing their views of some of the reasons why we lost, and we are listening and we are hearing. Because it's important that we hear all the reasons. It's important that we listen to everybody. And so at the various places, we are all listening, we are all hearing. And I'm sure that when the committee is done, we'll be able to decide what the way forward is, because people are talking about the delegate system, people are talking about the number of tenure an MP can have, people are talking about funding and finances, people are talking about projects that should have been done in constituencies, A, B, C, D, E, S, Z, and things like that. And then I'll come to your second question, which is on the communication bit. Now, I think that it's a national issue. We have. It's important that we. I mean, I know that it's important that we marshal every communicator to go on TV or to go on radio and to start talking. The thing is that in a very short time, maybe over the next 3 months, by March, we would be able to gain a lot more of our footing well. And so when now Mahama is doing his work. When you go and you talk as a communicator, you are either going to defend what the NPP government has done, or if you are not minded, you are going to say that Mahama is doing well. And that's not what you want to do as a communicator. Or you are either going to say that Mahama is not doing well. And so if we marshal all communicators to go out and release the army and we start letting them go out, we already do not have confidence with the Ghanaian people. We need to rebuild that confidence. We need to ensure that the Ghanaian people have our trust back. And so some people can still go on deployment and do the conversations, but the conversation should be a lot more of questions. So if you recall, I did some in-studio analysis on TV3 during the swearing in, and even when we had lost. And then I did some in-studio analysis during post the swearing in. I spoke about Ibrahim Tori, the sidearms that he had. I spoke about the dignitaries that had come. I picked it on the national level, and I stated that it was because of the good leadership of President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. That's why people can feel safe to come to Ghana. I mean, because you messed up the country in 2020 when you lost the election. Probably people would not have felt safe coming into Ghana, but we've kept the country and all of that. And then a few times you pat the back of Mahama, and then you ask the hard questions as you have to. And then obviously platforms like these, like social media, like TikTok, like Facebook, like Instagram, like X, Space, and all of that, YouTube are platforms that we can use to now rebuild our base. I've seen that loyal ladies have started asking for other young ladies to join and recruits to join. And so every evening I scroll through TikTok. Yesterday I scrolled through, I saw you, I joined briefly, and I went to other platforms, So and we'll just use that to create that synergy and inertia, really to allow us to propel and then to build. But I'm very, very confident that if we are able to clean up our homes very well, the Ghanaian people would give us another opportunity.